Hello, Oakland, and welcome back to an episode of Between Two... This week in Oakland, episode 3. So glad that you've joined us. Thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the 2 episodes that we've had so far. And if you missed one, you can go on to the Borough YouTube page at youtube.com/OaklandBorough and catch up on the episodes that you missed. Now, I will, we will get to all the different segments in just a second, and let me tell you, we have a whole bunch of different stuff to show you in episode 3. But I do want to make sure I do know everyone who has contributed to the episodes that we have had, and to this episode, of course. So that includes all of you out there who have submitted your photos for the slideshow that we're going to be including on the episode today, and all the people who have submitted other video segments for this week in Oakland. So I want to say thank you for stepping up and doing that, and on behalf of everyone in Oakland, I think we really greatly appreciate the time that you took to make some interesting programming for our residents, and even for people who are watching from other towns who are interested in watching This Week in Oakland.
Hello, Oakland. This is Marilyn here with my kayak, and I'm going to show you a little bit about kayaking. We're here on Potash Lake in Oakland, which is part of the Ramapo River. In case you didn't know, the Ramapo River is 30 miles long. It starts up at Round Lake in Monroe, New York, and ends just a few miles south of here, where it connects with the Quantic River and becomes the Pompton River and Pompton Lakes. And again, like I said, this is my kayak. It's made out of plastic. Kayaks can be made out of wood, fiberglass. They have many different parts. And I'm going to now get into the boat to show you how to kayak. It's very important to wear a life vest because although the water isn't very deep, the boats can tip over, and it is important to be able to float in case something happens, or in the summertime if you want to go out and take a swim. Another thing that's very important when you're boating or on water is to wear sunscreen, because even on a cloudy day like this, the sun does reflect off the water, and it's better for you to have your sunscreen on. And this is what I use to maneuver the kayak. It's called a double-bladed paddle. And to get into the water, you can either get pushed, or you can use your paddle to help push you along. And let me show you how that's done. I'm going to get into the kayak. Try to push myself off. Got to see a goose family. Mom and Dad were not too happy about me getting too close to the island. Let's see, there must be babies in there somewhere. I'm a little too close to these geese, and they don't like that. So, I'm going to back up. Here I am in the middle of the lake, in the middle of Potash Lake. It's early spring. A lot of the trees don't have their leaves on them yet, but there are a few that do. Hello there, Mr. Goose. How are you? Are you having a good day here? Lots of different birds that swim on the Ramapo River. There's a swan, as we saw before. There's geese. There's heron. There's lots of different fish swimming in the water. And we've got a little set of falls over there. Lots of different things to see. My favorite time to kayak is, of course, in the summertime. Watching. I bet there's a nest in there somewhere.
All right, now Andrea Levy is going to show us how to use some simple ingredients that she had lying around the house, and she's going to make a Vidalia onion pie. So let's see what Andrea does in order to make that happen.
All right, hi, my name is Andrea Levy, and today I'm going to be whipping up something from nothing from my refrigerator and my pantry. So what to make when all you have are some crackers, an onion, a couple of eggs, and if you're lucky, a little bit of cheese left over. Today we're going to make an onion pie with a cracker crust. So for today's cooking series, we're going to use what we have in the pantry and in the fridge and make something out of nothing. We've got some milk. I use skim milk, but you can use any milk that you have. You can use any cheese that you have that's going to melt well. I happen to have a big block of Jarlsberg, but any type of cheese would really do here. I have a Vidalia or sweet onion. That's going to go very far in this dish, along with a couple of eggs. I only have a few left, and only a little bit of butter left too. We're going to need pepper, basil, thyme, cilantro. If you don't have cilantro, you can use parsley or any seasonings that you like that go well with onion and egg. Think on those lines. If you want to make it spicy, you can throw in some paprika or some red pepper flakes, even a little bit of cayenne. Tastes real good in this. And of course salt, because what can you cook without salt? Very challenging these days. And crackers. I do have a box left over from a party, and we don't really eat crackers so much here, so this is the perfect use of cracker crust for our Vidalia onion pie. So that is what we're going to make, something out of nothing. It's called Vidalia onion pie. All right, so today we're going to make a cracker crust. Probably the easiest crust you can possibly make, and being that I only had crackers in my pantry, it's really the only crust I can come up with today. So what I've done is I've taken the rolls of the Ritz crackers, put them in a plastic baggie, and then just crush away. If you've got kids, let them do that. It's much more fun for them to do. And then take the crumbs and open up the end in the baggie before you take it out so you don't spill it all over the place, because that's what happens if you take it out and open it outside of the baggie. And just dump them in. simple. And then you're going to take a softened butter, unsalted butter is preferred, because most Ritz crackers have quite a bit of salt in them, and you don't want your food to be too salty. And then you're going to mush the butter and the crackers together to form a crust. It's going to get into like a big ball. Normally I would wear gloves to do this, but I am reserving my gloves for other uses, and my hands are clean, I wash them. So we'll just make this into our nice crust. Probably could have used a bigger bowl for it to make it easier for myself, but that's okay. All right, and then once your crust is done, you're going to put it into your pie bowl and form your crust evenly around the entire pie. Let's make our pie crust. We're going to take basically the Ritz cracker dough that we just made, and we're going to pour it into our pie plate. 8 or 9 inch pie plate will do. And this was about 2 sleeves of Ritz crackers and 1 stick of butter, and just pressing it down to create a crust. And just keep doing that until you get it about halfway up, just about halfway up the sides of the pie plate. Of course, depending on the size of your pie plate will determine how much of the crust will go up the sides. And you want to make sure it's even so that it's a nice even crust throughout. So just keep working it. Push it down a little bit, push it in, push it down, and eventually you will have a nice formed crust. All right. All right, so now we're going to cook our onions and get them ready for the pie. And what we're going to do is throw in about half a stick of butter. Let that melt down. And then we're going to take our chopped onions. This was about 1 large Vidalia onion. If you have medium ones, you might use 2. But basically you're looking for 2 cups of diced onions that you're going to, once your butter melts down. Now, I don't mind if my butter browns a tiny bit, because that gives it a little bit of a nuttiness. So we're going to pour those in. And we don't want them to fry, we don't want them to brown. I'm probably going to lower my flame just a tiny bit because I use a cast iron. I prefer the way it cooks, nice and even. But we do want to sweat it out and get the sweetness to come out of the onions, which typically happens when you go for a long, low cook on them. So we're going to let that cook down a little bit, and then what we're also going to do is throw in our spices, which is basically herbs. We've got thyme, cilantro, and some basil in here, but you can use any mix that you like. Just throw that in. Put that up a little bit higher and work it in a little bit. And then as it heats up, it'll get really fragrant and smell really nice. And then probably about 8 minutes or so, 10 minutes, depending on how hot your stove is. But again, don't let it burn, don't let it get crispy. That's not what you're looking for here. More of a softened onion that you're going to mix with the eggs and the cheese. So you can see the onions, they're softened, they're almost translucent. I'm going to give them another minute or so, but then what I'm going to do is put them directly into my Ritz cracker crust that I've made over here. And then we're going to cover it with all the cheese that we've shredded. I had some Jarlsberg, and I also had some leftover jalapeno cheddar cheese. And some Port Salut. So I have shredded up my cheeses, and I'm going to combine those over my onions. So let's go take a look at the onions. And I'm going to say they're about ready. You don't want them too soft, because then it's just mush. And it'll still taste good, but the texture may not be all that great. So then we're just going to pour our mixture with the spices and the butter, herbs I should say, right into the crust. And then we'll just smooth out the onions so you fill the pie. And then we're going to take some of the cheese, put it on. Got some chunks of the Port Salut because that's a very soft cheese, not necessarily one for shredding, but we did it anyway. All right, and I have mixed together here my 2 eggs, 3/4 cup of milk, and about a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. And we're just going to pour that right over. Really easy. And then we're going to take some more cheese and put that on top as well. So again, normally Gruyere is traditionally used in this particular dish. This is inspired by a restaurant that my family used to go to out on Long Island called Big Daddy's. It was a Cajun restaurant, bayou style food. That was awesome. And I can't wait to be able to go back out and go on the island and visit that restaurant again because they have really, really, really good food. But I've been making this for years. I tend to make it when we have parties or get-togethers, and it goes every time. There is never a piece left over of this. So I think it's safe to say that they like it and it's good. All right, so we've got all the cheese in here. We spread it around a little bit. And then we're going to take it and put it into a 350 oven and let it cook. All right, then we're going to let it cook at 350, and then we'll come back in a little bit. All right, so now we're going to put our Vidalia onion pie into the oven. It's been preheated at 350. In the center rack of the oven, 40 minutes. You want it to brown and bubbly on the top, and then you're going to let it sit for a little bit before you cut it. See how that's browning and it's bubbling all around the sides there. We're just about done there. I'm going to shut that off. I let it go a little bit longer than the original 40 minutes that I put it in for, another 10 minutes. And then I also raised the temperature to 500 for the last 2 minutes, just to give it a little more browning on the top, but it's something you have to judge because everybody's oven is just a little bit different. So you got to keep an eye on it in the last 10 minutes or so to make sure that you get the right amount of browning on the pie. So we're going to take this out. We'll come back for that in a moment. And I want you to get in on that a little bit. And that is your Vidalia onion assorted kitchen cheeses pie that we put together, something from nothing. Looks pretty good, doesn't it? So we're going to let it sit here for about 10-15 minutes, let it settle, and then we're going to cut through and give it a try. We'll be back. All right, so our pie is done. I've let it cool. It's still warm to the touch, but if you cut it any sooner, the cheese will just kind of melt all out, so you need to let it solidify a little bit. So let's give it a taste. I feel like those cooking people. Who's it, Lydia, that sits down with a glass of wine and eats her food and makes lots of noise.
You have to eat it like Guy Fieri.
Yum. Okay, that's really good. So let me just tell you, I serve this at events when my family comes over. It's a great brunch dish. It's an appetizer dish. You can use it really anywhere, and all you need is crackers, eggs, onion, and it's really, really, really good. So cheers.
Hi, I'm Councilman Grant Van Eck, and I have the privilege of serving as the liaison to the Oakland Communications Commission. The purpose of this segment is to get to know the chairman of this commission, Brian Schwartz, who is our current chairman and is doing a great job with the committee. And I would like to ask him a few questions so we get to know Ryan and get to know all about the commission and the great work these volunteers are doing for the borough of Oakland. So Ryan, what is the OCC and what does it do?
Well, thanks, Grant, for having me. Appreciate you having me come on and answer some questions. So OCC stands for the Oakland Communications Commission. So we oversee a lot of different aspects of what the borough does in order for it to effectively communicate with the public. So, we have different committees that handle different aspects of communication. So we have our television committee, and I'm right now in our Oakland television control room. So we broadcast different programs for the public, and most notably, we do the council meeting. So if you ever watch the council meeting and you put on the TV channel, that's all thanks to the Communications Commission. We have a newsletter committee, so that's our monthly, currently it's a monthly email newsletter. That's also part of the commission. We have our bulletin board, so if you see any news and announcements from different clubs and organizations on the TV channel, that's also Communications Commission that does that. And then we have a website and social media committee, and we work with the borough administrator assistant to kind of give them recommendations as to how things could be improved, maybe some new technologies to explore. So we're pretty involved. We're trying to get involved and still do a little bit more, but I think even if you might not have ever heard of the Communications Commission, if you get really any information from the borough, we have some role in that to play.
Very nice. So Ryan, tell me a little bit about yourself. How did you get involved in the OCC and eventually become the chairperson for this commission?
Sure. So for a lot of residents, they probably know that I'm the person behind trying to get a dog park in town. So I started attending council meetings fairly regularly just to see what was going on, get to know everyone that was on the council. So I would show up at the council meetings, and especially when I was away at college, it was fantastic that I had the ability to watch the council meetings from college in Western Pennsylvania. So I really grew an appreciation for what the commission and the TV committee did. So when I came back from college, it just so happened they put an announcement out saying that they were looking for new people to join. So I thought, why not? I just graduated. I'm looking for a good job to start my career. Why not give back to the town and volunteer in the meanwhile? So within the span of 6 months, I went from alternate 2 to alternate 1 to commission member to chairperson because the current person who was the chair was Fred Burks, who a lot of people in town might know. He's lived in town for quite a while, and he was one of the original people that was on the commission, and he kind of indicated to me he wanted to retire. He really liked me. He liked my ideas, so he kind of recommended everyone, hey, let's get behind Ryan, and if he's willing to be chairperson, then let's do it. And since then, I've put, you can tell I've put the pedal to the metal. We've gotten a lot of things done, have a lot of things still to do, but I think residents are starting to kind of see the improvements that we're making and really appreciating what we're doing, and that's what I love to do.
Right. So you talked a little bit about the improvements and how you got involved as a volunteer. I want to ask you, how do volunteers get involved? What type of volunteers are you looking for which projects, and what's the best way to get involved? And then I really would love for you to touch on the new program and a new member, which is the junior membership and the junior program for the Communication Commission.
Sure. So just like every single, a board, committee, commission in town, you can check with Borough Hall, check with the council liaison. They'll tell you if there's any openings that's on the commission. So I believe, right now, I think we have one opening on the commission right now. So it's always good to just check in, see what's going on. But even if you don't want to join the commission, and the commission is what oversees all the different committees, you can certainly join just one of the committees themselves and be a volunteer. So if you have any interest in television or filmmaking or production or editing, television committees for you. If you're really involved with social media and creating websites, building websites, web design, the website and web and social media committee would love to have you. If you love writing, if you love editing, if you like interviewing people, finding out things that are going on in town from the people who are making things happen, the newsletter committee is for you. If you're very involved with a lot of different clubs in town, and you understand the importance of having information on the television channel, or you're interested in Photoshop, InDesign, any type of graphic arts, the bulletin board committee is for you. So there's a lot of different aspects for a lot of different people. So if any of those things sound interesting to you, contact Councilman Van Eck, or if this is being viewed way in the future, which it might, because we like replaying some things, certainly contact the commission at occ@oakland-nj.org, and we'll definitely put you in touch with whoever's in charge at the time, and we'd love to see you join. And as Grant mentioned, we just launched a new program for junior volunteers. So, we're looking for people who are 13 to 18 years old who couldn't be a full voting member on the commission, but they have some ideas, some expertise, or they just want to kind of get involved, and maybe they're interested in a career in television or journalism or something like that. This is a great experience for you to really get involved, and even though you can't vote, you have a voice in a lot of things that could be going on. And our first junior member, his name's Ben, and he's really interested in video editing and the television side of things. And we actually just, as you probably know, launched this program this week in Oakland, and he's been involved as one of the editors on the program. So if you're interested in, you're at 13 to 18 age group, you're interested, shoot us an email, and we'd love to have you aboard.
Thanks, Ryan. What type of training is involved, or orientation or onboarding, for somebody who's interested in becoming a member or joining the commission?
So a lot of it is just kind of the skills you bring to the table. So obviously when it comes to something like the bulletin board committee or newsletter, we can give you some tips, we can give you some pointers, we can show you just some of the processes. But a lot of that is, you already had some of that experience in terms of just graphic design, Photoshop, InDesign, etc. So you're already kind of coming with those skills to the table. So it really shouldn't take too much. Most of the time that we spend with volunteers in terms of training has to do with the equipment that you see over here for the television side of things. Because a lot of people, they might have some experience working with a camera, a video camera or a regular photography camera, but you probably haven't done anything broadcast-wise. So we show you something called the switcher, which essentially is what changes the different pictures that you see on TV. We have camera control, so that's what makes the cameras, go side to side, up and down, zoom in, zoom out. So we show you that. And then we have an audio board, so that's just to make sure that, when someone comes up from the audience and they have a very soft voice, how to raise the volume and you can hear them. Or if maybe all of a sudden, someone got a promotion and everyone in the audience is applauding, knowing the right thing to do to adjust it so people who are watching at home or online aren't blowing their ears out. So, usually it takes, we encourage volunteers, come to a meeting or two, sit down, we'll teach you how to work it. And most of the volunteers will, get a decent sense of what they have to do within 2 or 3 council meetings. And then if you're interested, you want to be on board, you want to keep coming, we'll add you to our rotating schedule. And, it's a fun time. We like to have fun. We take our job seriously, but at the same time, we're lively people. We like, wanting to get involved in our community, and it's something fun to do. We all really enjoy doing what we do.
Oh, thanks, Ryan. It sounds like it's a great time to be involved with the OCC, and it's a great way for residents to use their given gifts and talents and abilities to give back to our community. I'd love to ask you about any new programs you have coming up. A little bit about This Week in Oakland. You scratched the surface on that one already. Love to hear more about it. And then any other ideas you're working on, and if there's anything surprising you may have in store for us in the future.
Sure. So obviously, I did mention This Week in Oakland, which is the wonderful program that you're watching right now. If you happen to be watching this, this is This Week in Oakland. But essentially, this is kind of like a temporary program that we're just doing in the meanwhile, just to have something on the air that's positive, that's inspiring, that's encouraging, that's educational, just something a bit more uplifting than the endless press conferences and phone calls and, negative news that we hear every day. It's something kind of just, interesting, how to cook different meals while you're at home, how to make your own mask, if you want to go out with one and, you can't find one somewhere. Just very interesting programming. And the thing is, if we have more volunteers, we can do more programs. So we're always looking for people from different age groups to help out. Some people who are retired might have more time to go around and film and edit and video. And people who are younger might know some of the cool tips and techniques to make a production or do video editing happen. So that's another thing that we pride ourselves in, that we like to have a diverse group of people. It doesn't really matter the age, man, woman, what your background is. just having all those different perspectives, really liven everything up and do a good job of spreading our horizons out. But it is part of the proposed budget this year, here in 2020, for the council, that we're going to upgrade most of the equipment in this room. And that's because, especially our cameras, which we use to broadcast our council meetings as of right now, they're approaching almost 20 years old. And in fact, when I came in today, one of them was acting up, and we don't have any video from one of the cameras, which I'm hoping we're able to fix in the short term. But these are some of the things that we're hoping to improve, so that the quality for the residents at home, and especially those residents who are watching online, just to have it improved, a better quality, you can see what's going on, better presentations, things like that. So that's something that we're working on and hope to have done. Another project, which I know Councilman Van Eck has been looking into, is the borough had a plan to put in what's called a fiber loop. So they want to connect all the different borough buildings and facilities together. And one of the ideas that came about with that was we could potentially use that to put cameras in the senior center and cameras on the rec field, so that if there's any different types of events or sporting events, we could broadcast them from here and give the residents more programming and things that would be of interest to them. And the last thing I would say that I'm looking into is I'd like to increase the amount of content that we have on the channel. So obviously a lot of that is having the volunteers to film things, but I'm thinking of trying to reach out to local filmmakers who are in town, maybe who do this for fun or as a profession, or as a solid side job, and see if they would be open to maybe premiering some feature films or some films that they're working on Oakland TV, and do like a movie night in Oakland. So that way Oakland residents and even people in the surrounding towns who get Oakland TV have an opportunity to see some different types of filmmaking and genres, all from Oakland residents. So if that's something you're interested in, I mean, we're not quite there yet as of this recording, but if that's something you're interested in, shoot us an email, same thing, occ@oakland-nj.org, and we'd love to talk to you.
Well, thanks, Ryan. Sounds like you've got some really interesting things in the works, and thank you for getting this new program that we're on up and running. That was a great idea, very visionary, and I think you've got some great ideas as far as filmmaking and getting filmmakers or even students who are working on films to broadcast. Any other programming that you'd like to talk about that the OCC has worked on beyond the council meetings, or anything else they're doing, or anything you'd like to leave us with before we wrap up this interview?
Sure. I mean, I would definitely say the biggest thing is we need volunteers. It's hard to get the council to, if we wanted to do the idea with putting cameras at the rec field, it's hard to get the council to approve giving us money to put cameras at the rec field if we don't have volunteers and interested residents who express that that's something that they want. And there's only so much that I can do, that the commission can do. I mean, Grant's been very helpful as our liaison, but there's only so much that we can do unless we have members of the public getting involved, or even if members of the public express to the town, this is what we want to see happen. So definitely, getting involved, I know, and even not just the commission, the communications commission, but a lot of the other committees and commissions and boards, they really do need volunteers. And it's something, a positive that you can do for the town. And, I can only speak on behalf of the communications commission, but, we would appreciate any volunteer that we could get who wants to learn, wants to get involved, and just help out in any way possible. And the more people we have involved, the more things we can do, and the better it is for everyone in Oakland.
You're absolutely right, Ryan. And one of the great stories I learned recently was about Greg and Don from OLPH and how they've ensured the broadcast of the Saturday night vigil mass on Sunday mornings for the nursing home, which has been an activity for the nursing home residents of all faiths. It's just such an incredible thing that they've been doing for a long time, and that the OCC has made possible. And volunteers like that and volunteers like you are the lifeblood of our wonderful community of Oakland. So I want to thank you so much for your time, your talent, and your dedication to the OCC, the dog park as well, of course, and all the things that you do to make our community of Oakland such a wonderful place to live and work and be with our families. So thank you, Ryan. And this has been a great opportunity to get to know you, get to know the OCC, and the committees that make our community go. So that's all for now, and I look forward to continuing segments like this, meeting with other committee liaisons, and getting to know other commissions and the work that they're doing here in Oakland.
All right, thanks to Councilman Van Eck for that segment. Now, let's actually go back to Andrea's kitchen. She has a second recipe for us, and she's gonna make some pea soup.
Hi, my name is Andrea Levy, and today I'm going to make something with some leftovers from the holiday dinner. We have a ham, and I'm going to make pea soup with the ham bone. We have split peas. I'm also going to add some barley because I have some of that left over. We're going to use a whole assortment of different spices: onion powder, garlic powder, thyme, basil, oregano. What else do I have here? Some crushed red pepper. We also have salt, always need salt, and 2 containers, about a gallon's worth, or 2 32 fluid ounce containers of chicken broth, or if you have your own chicken broth that you've made. Vegetable broth can be used for this as well. And we're gonna make some pea soup with some carrots and celery, some onion, and some garlic, and let's get on our way. All right, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna make our pea soup. The first thing we do is we heat up our large stock pot, and we put the ham bone in. I've taken all the ham meat that was left on the bone, and I've cut that up into little diced pieces, and I have the ham bone in here, so I'm trying to get that to caramelize just a tiny bit, and heat up the ham pieces so we get a little bit of the ham juice out of them. And then what I'm going to do is throw in my onions. Always good to use 2 hands, and try to get the onions inside the pot, not on you, like me. Give that a little whirl in here too. You can already smell the ham smell, that smokiness that comes from it. And then we're going to throw in our diced carrots and celery, and about 3 cloves of minced garlic. You can go a little heavier on that if you want. I just already had it diced, and I was a little lazy right now. I didn't want to do any more. All right, and then we give that a little whirl too. Again, we're going to let it sweat for a minute or 2 just to get those juices rolling in the vegetables and from the meat as well. And then we're going to put in our liquids to let that boil, and then we'll get to the peas and the barley. So come back in a moment. All right, so for this recipe, I actually don't have measurements. I kind of freehand it a little bit. With almost every soup or stew that I make, I tend to use granulated garlic. I start off with about a teaspoon or so of that. And if I'm making something big, I'll make it 2 teaspoons. And then we get to our granulated onion. I go a little bigger on that, so we do 2 teaspoons, and I'll add a third in. Next thing I'll add is a little bit of basil, just a tiny bit, about half a teaspoon, just to get a little bit of herbiness in there. Maybe even a little lighter than half a teaspoon. Thyme is more the predominant herb that I use on this, so I go back to my teaspoon. No, excuse me, half teaspoon, but a full one this time. And then we'll do some salt and pepper, and if you like a little bit of spiciness to it, but not real spice or heat, just a shake of red pepper flakes. I put that on everything. And a shake of pepper, it's probably equivalent to about a half teaspoon of pepper. And salt, about a teaspoon. This is just regular salt. I'm going to put some kosher salt in here as well. But I tend to go light on the salt because we're using broth, and broths, even when they're low salt, still have salt. And I really don't like to go too crazy with the salt. So let's take this, mix this around. How's it smell? It smells good. Ah, he's shy. That's okay. He's gonna eat it, whether he likes to or not. So, hope it smells good. All right, so we got that going. Next thing we're gonna do is throw in some of our chicken broth. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. You could heat the chicken broth up separately and just have it go in boiling. I'm trying to save on cleaning today, so I'm trying to use just one pot. I know other people who appreciate that in the house. And we throw in our broth. Sometimes I have homemade chicken broth and I'll throw that in. And I still might, because I think I need a little more liquid in this. All right, so we're gonna let that sit for a couple of minutes and boil, and then we'll be back. All right. All right, and so we're also gonna add some extra water. I'm gonna add about 4 more cups of water so I have extra liquid in here, because I'm going to add barley and this will suck up all the liquid that's in there. So I don't want it to be totally solid. I still want it to be a soup, but it will be very thick when it is done. So another 4 cups of water should at least get me some soupiness to it, but it'll still be very, very thick. All right, so now we finally have a little boil on our ham hock and vegetables, carrots, onions, celery, some herbs, and now I'm gonna throw in our green split peas. You can use any pea that you want. I like this because it breaks down and it actually cooks very quickly. Typically I would have rinsed that, but I kind of forgot. It'll be fine. Hopefully there won't be any stones in there. We'll find out now, won't we? And then the next thing, after we stir that around a little bit, we're gonna throw in the barley. So I have about roughly half a bag of the barley left here, and I'm just gonna throw that in. I added extra water earlier because I anticipate it's going to absorb the barley, or the barley rather, is going to absorb the extra water. And we'll give that a little stir as well. And put our flame on just a little bit lower so it's a simmer. And cover. You're going to want to go check on that every so often and make sure you're stirring the bottom because it can stick. But by and large, it's going to take about 45 minutes to an hour for it to start to break down, the ham that is, and then also the soften for the barley and the split peas. You know it's done when they're no longer split peas and all you have is a very thick, textured, almost like a sauce. It's not really a soup. It's somewhere in between. I guess we could call it a really, really, really thick soup, but it'll be really good. All right, so the soup has been cooking about an hour or so, give or take. And if you come on in a little bit, you can see the consistency of it. It's still soup, but it is very thick. And let me tell you, when this goes in the fridge, tomorrow it will be completely solid. And you might want to just add a little bit of water to loosen it up. But this is the consistency. We see you have your ham and your carrots and your celery and your spices in there. And let's take a little taste. Again, here we are with Lydia. It's a little hot. And it's actually really good. It's perfect. And then you make sure, you know when it's done, when your vegetables are done, and you can cut through them. Yep, we're good.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of This Week in Oakland. I again want to thank everyone who has submitted a segment for this program, as it's greatly appreciated, and especially a huge shout out to our editors, Christian Chu and Benjamin Good. We greatly appreciate the amount of time and effort that you've put into this program and all of the programs so far in order to make it a reality. Now, before we wrap up for the day and for this program, I just want to let you know we do have a slideshow of some of the photos that you've submitted, but if you didn't get it to submit a photo and you still want to, it might not be too late. So we're going to show you some of the pictures that we've received so far, But if you decide at the last minute, hey, you know what, maybe I should send in a picture, if we have enough pictures, we'll put it in for another episode of This Week in Oakland. So send us an email to occ@oakland-nj.org, and if we get enough pictures, we'll do another resident slideshow here on This Week in Oakland. But for now, here are your pictures. Thanks again for watching episode 3 of This Week in Oakland. We greatly appreciate your interest in this program and ask that you do share it with your family, friends, relatives, neighbors, fellow Oaklanders, so we can get this nice video of positivity and fun things out to as many people as possible. We do also want to remind you to remember to stay in touch with everything that's going on in the borough of Oakland, and you can do that, of course, by staying here and watching Oakland TV. We also have our social media channels on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. And in addition, if you go to the borough website on the homepage of oakland-nj.org, there's a button that you can click to make sure that you're signed up for a program called Swift Reach. That will enable you to receive emergency phone calls and text messages straight from the borough to your home phone, your cell phone, etc., so that if there is an emergency, the borough can directly communicate with you. I hope that you have a wonderful rest of the day. Thank you again for watching This Week in Oakland, and we'll see you next week.